Welcome to Radio Northumberland. My name is Paul Green. This is Desert Island Discs. Now, on this show, I invite a guest into the studio, chat about their life, choose some of their favourite music, and of course, at the end of the show, they've got to choose their favourite dessert, hence the name of the show. Now, my guest today is an author. His first book, Diaries of a Doorman, a collection of true short stories, released in December of 2013, has, and I quote from the site, been a surprise smash hit and gained Amazon's 5-star review rating. He has since gone on to write many more books, including a book of contemporary poetry and children's books. Now, more on those later. He is Stu Armstrong. Welcome to the show, Stu.
Hiya, thanks for being here.
Now, the question I always ask, because it's always fascinated me, somebody who started writing later in life, shall we say, but what prompted you to start writing a book?
It's something that has always been an ambition, as long as I can ever remember. Some of my earliest memories were wanting to write a book and try and write things. And from being 5 or 6 years old, I used to keep writing a little newspaper called Stu's News, that sort of thing. And I always thought it would be the most difficult thing in the world to do, and that I wasn't capable of doing it. But just over it, but nearly 2 years ago now, I got made redundant from my day job, which I've been in for 10 years. And I thought, right, I'm going to have a go at this. And I found that I really, really enjoyed the writing, and I found it really easy to do if I was in the right mood.
Right.
But I thought it was a load of rubbish. I just wanted to get a book published. I expected, really, my mother would buy one copy and say, oh yeah, that's very nice, son, put it at the back of the cupboard. Yeah. And it went absolutely crazy. Yeah. And I'm totally shocked.
And I want to come on later on about writing, because again, that's something that fascinates me. Every author come in and ask about writing, how you do it. But when I was at school, I was okay. I was in the A grade, but I was near the bottom. But I was one teacher who come along in English, and suddenly he sort of gave me the confidence to say, look, you can write. Yeah. Was there anybody in your school anybody you know since then sort of mentored you and pushed you on to say, give it a go?
Not from school days or anything like that. But there is somebody who's a bit of a friend of mine. Funny enough, I write quite a lot of things on Facebook forums. Okay. And I went to a boxing show that was organised by Steve Wraith one day. And as I went in, you really should write a book, you know. He said, I've written a couple of art into it, but looking at some of the stuff you write on Facebook, you really should do it. And he gave us a bit of a push, along with somebody who I've never met, but who I've talked a lot sort of over the internet, another writer called Robin Barrett. Okay. He helped us out by doing a foreword for the first book. Right. That really pushed us on quite a bit as well.
It's amazing how now we have friends we never know. But
you
actually feel as though you are connected to them, you know what I mean?
That's it.
And have such an influence on your life. Now, obviously, as I said, you had to choose some of your favourite music. This is the one I often get. Often on my other show, Beyond Normal, because it's Ghost Town by the Specials. Any particular reason why you chose this track?
Since it came out, which I think was about 1981,
probably, yeah.
It's always been my all-time favourite song. Yeah. It's absolutely fantastic. There's just something about it that it brings the hairs up on your arms. But it's even more apt, I think, now, especially when I'm working in Whitley Bay on the Doors, because it could be the story of Whitley Bay over the last 2 or 3 years. Yeah. It's just, that's what it is.
Yeah. I've got a granddaughter now. I know I'm far too young. I look far too young for that. But we took her about 2 years ago to Whitley Bay, and I was like, what's happened? It's almost like the town's been split in two.
That's it. Yeah. It's absolute madness. It is still a good place as well, but not a lot of people come down.
Yeah. I know. I mean, I quite like this track as well, and I guarantee when I've been to bike rallies, you put this on, no matter who you are, the bikers are up stomping around.
Yeah, that's it.
I love it. Listen to this when we come back. I want to talk about you being a doorman and the reaction you probably, or may have got, when you actually went to publish a book.
Yeah.
This place is coming like a ghost. people get you down and gray.
This is Desert Island Discs. That was Ghost Town the Special. It's the choice of my guest today, Stu Armstrong, author, and as you mentioned before, also doorman. Now, that's one of the things I wanted to address, because before I came on, you were chatting about the public's concept of both bikers, which I am, and I look like one, and doorman. Did you get any sort of resistance, or do you have any problems when it comes to actually publishing the books, or were you receptive?
I got, at first, the reaction which I thought I'd get. He's a doorman. He can't be very bright. I mean, he can't even write. And I used to get a lot of people commenting before it came out, and I was trying to advertise it. Oh, he must have written it in crayons. But what a lot of people don't know is a hell of a lot of doormen these days, it's a second job for them.
Yeah.
And they've got completely different jobs. And my day job, I'm an HR implementation consultant, which is the opposite end of the spectrum to that.
I'm not fucking sure what it is, but it sounds important.
Well, it's not that important, but I enjoy it.
Yeah.
But the thing that I do get, which I always find quite amusing and embarrassing, I get people turning up at some of the doors where I work, or the odd time in the street. They say, oh, can you sign the book? Can I have your autograph? But always look us up and down and go, I thought you would have been taller. Well, I thought I would have been taller as well, but I never did grow.
So I would say I'm short for my weight, you know what I mean? I mean, but the other, the flip side was what, I mean, you do get female door people.
Yep.
But predominantly it's a male world. What was the reaction of your fellow doormen? Can I imagine it'd be a bit of a rib.
There was, the majority of them were massively supportive. When I first started advertising it on a Facebook page, all the doormen that I knew and a lot that I didn't picked it up and were sharing it. And I think within about a week, and this is before the book even came out, I had over 1,000 likes. It's knocking on 2,000 now. But then you got a few of them, maybe the shadier characters. I'm not in your book, am I? So,
did any get anybody who was the opposite? Why aren't I in your book?
I didn't at first until probably the second one came out, and then I get a lot of people, why am I not in the book? Why am I not in the book? But there is a lot of people in there who I know quite well who are actually in the book, but apart from probably two of them, I've changed all the names to protect the innocent and the guilty.
That's interesting. Do you get some people who you've actually wrote a story, I haven't read the book yet, I'm looking forward to reading them, and it's not about them, but they assume it's about them?
Yeah, quite a few of them. Quite a few of them. And they say, oh yeah, I remember that night.
You
and you
there,
think,
mate.
my God, you're absolutely talking rubbish, mate.
So you do still work as a doorman?
Yeah, I'm still doing it now, yeah.
So how long have you done the job?
On and off for nigh on 20 years.
It must have changed, I mean, hell of a lot from then to now, where it's all...
It's completely different. It's a completely different job. It's a completely different environment as well, and the people are completely different.
I saw that I saw bits of that TV series, it might have been called Doorman, and it was based at Blythe. And it was all radios and mics and,
Bouncers, it was called.
Bouncers, yes.
Funny enough, the ones at Blythe, I know those two lads.
Right.
A lad called Sean Scullion and a really good friend of mine who I was talking to half an hour ago, Ben Taylor.
All right.
On the same programme as well, I don't know if you saw, there was one based in Essex. And there was a lad on there similar age to me called Ryder Scott. Right. He's a doorman. He does close protection, but he's also a trainer as well. Now he wrote a little part in the first book just about the experience of sort of recording the show. Right. But at the minute we're very close to completion between the two of me and Ryder. A book called So You Want to Be a Bouncer, which is trying to tell people what the job's really like. A lot of people think, oh, I want to be a bouncer, you get the girls, that sort of thing. But to me, the hardest part of the job, you stand there for hours on end in the freezing cold and all you want to do is go home. Right. So we're putting this book together all the way through, sort of, is it really for you? This is how you find the best training. This is how you do the course, about the exams, how you apply for an SIA badge.
Because you just don't be a bouncer, you've got to be qualified and
that's
trained
it.
and
That's
pass
right,
exams. I mean, it must have been, years since I'd been out in Newcastle, but I was coming back from an investigation with my alter ego, the psychic biker, at the Castle Keep. And I left early and I come through town at 2 o'clock. It's the clubs and the pubs come out, and I just went by thinking, I couldn't do that job.
Yeah.
Because it was a nightmare. I don't know how you... All credit to Dorman who work the doors and deal with us who think we're fantastically funny when we're drunk. We're not.
Yeah, everybody's a comedian when they've had a drink.
The second track of music, Gino Dexy's Midnight Runner, talking about cold and wet. I actually spent a night gardening at Equipment National.
No,
Long time ago. Why did you choose this track?
this was the first song that I ever bought.
Alright.
On the old vinyl 7-inch singles. First one I ever bought. I remember my mum taking us to the shop for it.
Vinyl.
And funny enough, I think I'm one of the few people I know that still actually likes the first song and doesn't think it's a really embarrassing one.
I quite like it. Go and listen to it. When we come back, I've just been... The books are standing beside me, Stu brought to me. I've just been flicking through to make sure what I'm going to say next is true. But first of all, I'm going to talk about the covers of the book. Dexy's Midnight Runners, classic track. This is Radio Northumberland. You're listening to Desert Island. My name is Paul Green. My guest today is Stu Armstrong, bouncer and doorman, and there's something weird Charles which I didn't understand, but says it's still okay. We talked a little bit before you listened to Dexy's Midnight Runners by the fact that on all of his books, as I said, I had a quick flick through before I said it. There's either a picture of you or it's portraiture, shall we say? Now,
Yeah.
I remember listening to an interview with, and I forget the name of the Scottish author who's very famous, but they spend hours, maybe days, discussing what the front's going to look like because it's so important. Why did they try to have you on them all?
Well, I spent quite a bit of time agonising over what was going to be on the cover. And in a million years, I wouldn't have thought to put my very pretty face on. And I'd done a cover, which was pretty terrible, to be honest. And then out of the blue, a good friend of mine called Scott Telfer, he sent us a message on Facebook saying, have a look at this. And he'd taken a photograph that Ben, my 12-year-old son, had taken in my mum's back garden next to the washing line. And he'd made it into the cover for the first book, and I knew nothing about it. And I was absolutely blown away by his work. When it came to doing the second one, straight away, Scott, there's your cover. And then the third one, Scott.
And it's just funny because I'm pretty similar to you. I had a book out and went from camera comes out and I'm running the other way to now you've got to stand and pose. And one of the pictures of my book was took at 3:30 in the morning at Keeler Castle after a ghost hunt lit by a torch. But it's funny how very quickly, I don't know if you do the same, but you can see yourself on the front cover, but you just blank it. You don't start analysing and looking at it and thinking, it's just somebody.
Well, at first, I was totally blown away when I first seen the cover because it doesn't particularly look like me that much. I mean, straight away, Scott stretched me chubby cheeks out a little bit, which is probably why people think I'm going to be taller. And it's quite a heavy photoshopping, especially in the third book.
Right.
And to me, I look at it now and I don't really see my own face.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
It's bizarre.
The same when I'm recording the show, at first you're like, oh, because nobody can hear their own voice. There's a reason for that. Now it's just like, it's just noise. Just
Yeah.
get it on edit. But we're talking about books, not about recording, and this is a topic I ask all my authors because I find it so fascinating myself, because every author has their own way of approaching writing. I was actually listening to the guy who writes as Ed McBain.
Yeah.
He's 87 now, and he will say, right, every day I'm going to write for X amount of hours, and then he's very disciplined.
Yeah.
Are you like that, or are you like me, you've got to be in the mood?
Well, that's how I started.
Right.
And I found that sometimes the words would just flow and it would be fantastic and I'd just lose time. Sometimes I'd sit there for hours and I'd maybe write a little bit and it was the biggest load of rubbish I've ever read. And I've learned now, really the experience of doing the first book, I've got to be in the right mood to do it or it's a complete waste of time.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, sometimes, as you say, it's very difficult to explain, but when you're in the zone and the words are just coming out, writing it's the easiest thing in the world.
It is. The way I describe it, which is probably not the nicest thing in the world, it's like vomiting words onto the page.
Yeah.
But if I try when I'm not in the right mood, then I'll sit there and I'll make a cup of tea, go back to it, and I'll get nothing done.
Cut,
and if
paste,
I do,
cut, paste, delete.
That's it. Mainly delete.
Third track of music, and it's one I love, this one. Luca, Suzanne Baker. It's a great song to listen to. I can listen to it anytime. Why did you choose it?
It's a fantastic song, but it's got a really strong meaning for me. That one of my middle son, funny enough, it's his birthday on Thursday as well, who's 10. He's called Luca.
Happy birthday, Luca.
It's a name that I've always loved. And I've loved that song for a long time, but it just means so much more now. That I've got a son called Luca, yeah.
Great song. I often sometimes have to fade and edit songs out because of time constraints. Stuff it. This is getting played in full. Was the classic track Luca by Suzanne Vega. This is Radio Northumberland. My name's Paul Green. This is Desert Island Discs. My guest today is an author, Stu, who also is a doorman. Now, I'm just reading from your website. You've got 6 books written and published, with another 5 coming out on the 1st December this year.
Yep.
We'll come into them in a moment. And if you want to check out his works, if you go to Radio Northumberland Facebook page, just do a quick search, you'll find us and like us. I'll be tweeting links to his page as well at R Northumberland and posting on the Facebook page of links to his website and his work. Now, that's a huge, I mean, it took me a year to do one book. That's a huge output of work. Are you not afraid of burning out?
It's something I don't really particularly think about.
Right.
The first book took us best part of a year to put together, but then I used to try and sit down like we were talking about before, and I've got to write this. Where now I write a little bit when I'm in the mood, and quite often it just flies out, and I've got about 2 or 3 books on the go at the same time.
Right.
It may carry on, as you say, it may burn out. It all depends on if I'm in the right mood or not. So who knows?
I mean, this is a question that occurred to me. I've got a script, but often this gets torn up. Can I ask the same question of the show I used to do, but out this week, B. Davenport, and she was written a series of crime novels set in the 70s, and she often says that some of the blurbs on the books is some violent scenes happen. Now, you haven't read the book, but I'm assuming you've wrote about some things where there's the conflict involved in the stories.
Yeah, there is. I think part of the nature of the job, there is a bit of conflict in there. But I've tried to do it differently to a lot of the Dorman books that you read. Look at me, I'm a big hard man. I did this, I did that. For instance, there's one story in there which is completely true. I was knee between the legs and floored by an 80-odd-year-old woman. And I would have done the same thing, but the lad I was working with just stood there and creased up laughing. I try to get a lot of humour into it. Yeah. And I think that's the way a lot of Dormans sort of cope with the job, is by humour.
Yeah, like the black humour of emergency style.
That's it, yeah. And a lot of it's poking fun at myself, which I think you've got to be able to do.
Oh, yeah. But when you're writing it, and obviously, as you said, you're vomiting it onto the page, you must, in some degree, remember the emotions. How do you dump that when you walk away from the screen?
I massively go through the emotions, especially in some of the poetry I've written as well. Right. And if I write something that is taking us back to a sad place or something like that, then it stays with you for quite a while. I think the way I get out of it really is, I've got probably the mental age of about a 3-year-old when I'm with my kids. I've got great kids and we do crazy stuff. And, you know, if it's something that's in a bit of a sad place, they get us out of it all the time.
It's not like Mum used to say, you get out of it the same way you got into it. Coming on from if you mentioned your kids, because complete contrast to the books on the Dorman, as you mentioned, there's a certain image about what they're going to be writing about. You wrote a series of children's books called Mr. Wag.
Yeah.
And it says in your books, they inspire the imagination. Mr. Wag series of books are interactive and actually involve your children in writing an illustration as part of the story.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that, because I've got a 6-year-old granddaughter who's struggling to get into books, and that sounds great.
Well, how this came about, Saul, my youngest, he kept saying, I want to take one of your books to school, Dad, to show the teacher. And Dorman books aren't really the right topic. So I said, well, why don't we try and write one together? Right. And we sat in the car one day, and Saul actually came up with the concept for Mr. Wag and his extraordinary dogs. So I took that concept and went away, and I wrote a book for Saul, really, to take to school.
Okay.
And that seems to have taken off quite well. But I'll look back to sort of in my teens, there was a lot of sort of adventure novels out, where you would choose, say, 2 or 3 different endings, and you would pick one of those. So I thought, but rather than do that, why not try and inspire kids to write? And it'll go so far through the story, and then there's no ending to any of the Mr. Wag stories.
Okay.
you've got a series of pages that encourages kids to write their own story, to write their own ending to the story.
Could
and
use
do
the
some
imagination
pictures
as
with
well.
it. That's it,
Yeah.
yeah. So really, the books, they're as long or short as
That's
a
great,
kid's
that.
imagination. That's really
Love
the
that idea
of
because I'm avid reader. I'll devour a book in a sitting. My son is. If my granddaughter, she's in the digital age. She'll sit down. Like I often say, I think some kids will grow with extra thumb.
Yeah.
But writing and reading, she hasn't got that. I think that's a great way of drawing kids
Mm.
off the Xbox. Nothing wrong with the Xbox. And into using their imagination.
Yeah, well, my kids are very much like that, especially Ben, my oldest. If I get the iPhone off him, it would be like it would be like an emergency surgery or something like
You've
that.
ruined my life.
But the good thing about it is, though, they all love books the same as I always have.
Yeah.
And I've tried with all the different ebooks and Kindles and that kind of thing, and I can't get into the stories, I can't enjoy a book. It's got to be paper to turn the pages.
Right.
And all three of my kids are like that.
It's funny
And I
that.
don't know if it came from me or what it is. I mean, all my books you can get in Kindle format and Kobo format, and a lot of people seem to enjoy them, but I just can't do it.
I was the same. I loved the book. I couldn't understand Kindle, and in fact I used to take. I was actually taking a mickey because my daughter had one. She lives in Norwich now, some far away. And I was saying, "Oh, I heard there's been a 3D Kindle invented." She's like, "What?" And it's called a book. Didn't know she bought me one for Christmas, did I? And I like it. It's actually just broken after 18 months.
Yeah.
So I understand the fact the physical feel of a book because there's something about it, and you can flick through faster. But be able to sit there and just download a book on Christmas Day.
I mean, I'm a really big fan of technology and just about anything else in the world. I love all this, the digital age, but when it comes to books, I don't know. And there's something about a really old book. I tend to keep them, put them in a loft for years, read them again, and they get that smell about them as well.
Yeah, funny enough, I was watching this comedy show and was taking a mickey, like saying, "I've read this book, now I'm going to keep it." Well, yeah, because you might read it again and again and again. Coming to your fourth song of music, California Love by Tupac. Complete contrast to this.
It is. It's a song that I love. I couldn't tell you why. I think some of it comes from working in some nightclubs and I've been on the door. It's a bit of a cheery up song, and it just makes us want to dance. And I dance like an earthworm. I do not dance. I refuse to dance. But that song makes us want to jump onto one of the speakers or something. I don't know what it is.
Say, beggars and bouncers up, you don't dance, you stand in the bar, sunglasses on, look cool, tap your foot.
Exactly.
See what happens, see if you makes you dance this one. Californian Love by Tupac. You're back with Radio Northumberland. This is Desert Island Disc. That was Californian Love by Tupac. Choice of my guest today, who's an author, and as of course, as you mentioned, a doorman, but not your typical doorman, because also writes children's books. That was Stu Armstrong. Now, there's a complete contrast to the children's books just mentioned. Flicking through your website, I've come across a page, Be Bad.
Yep.
What's that about?
It's a promotional company that organises bare knuckle boxing.
Right.
A lot of people look at bare knuckle boxing as the backstreet thing that you get all these terrible people
on the cobbles
gambling and all hurting each other and they fight until they're dead. It's a company run by Joe Smith Brown, and he's trying to sort of bring things to the forefront. And it's done in rings.
Right.
It's done with medical staff there. But when you get involved in it and when you watch it, it's like a big family.
Right.
And I'm a big boxing fan anyway, and I love nothing better when you see two fighters fighting each other and then they've got respect for each other, they shake hands, hug each other at the end. But in the bare knuckle boxing game, it's more than that. They're almost like brothers.
Right.
It's
it's
fantastic.
I'm saying this off the top of my head. I thought, because I've read books by Lenny McLean, the Governor, this sort of thing, that I thought that maybe it's not illegal, but is it a case of if they don't wear gloves of a certain way, it's not licensed by certain boxing governing bodies? Is it separate completely?
Well, it's all unlicensed, so it's not sanctioned by any kind of government body. To comply with the law, they need to wear some kind of hand wraps of a certain thickness, which I think has got to be 4 centimetres thick or above. But the interesting thing, as I say, I'm very into boxing. You hear a lot of people saying, boxers punch drunk, which comes down to pugilistic dementia.
Yeah.
It's actually safer, bare knuckle, when it comes to that, because obviously the fist is smaller than a big boxing glove. and apparently the spread of the glove, it'll make the brain sort of rattle around the skull,
Right,
and you've got more chance, yeah.
And I'd imagine as well that is, it's going to hurt more from the point of view of the person punching.
Yeah.
So you're not going to punch as hard.
That's it. Well, there's that, and I think more so with bare knuckle boxing, sort of one punch can end a fight, and the fighters seem to pick the punches a lot more. There seems to be a lot less punches thrown.
Right.
There seem to be more effect, but less punches thrown. I think it's quite an interesting concept to see the difference between them. There's a local lad actually, who was a friend of mine, Mike Lord, who was just from Ashington. He's a really good up-and-coming bare knuckle boxer. I was watching him fight the NE6 in Water a few weeks ago. But on Halloween, he's fighting in a gloved show.
Right.
By a last man standing show, and he stepped in at the last minute. And I think it's going to be interesting to see the difference. I've never seen him fight with gloves.
Right.
And I'm quite looking forward to seeing, the difference between it, because it seems to be bare knuckle and boxing, very, very different things.
Yeah. That was my next question.
Yeah.
Is it, you mentioned difference in terms of amount of punches thrown, but is it, I'm struggling to get the words. Is it actually boxing with no gloves, or does it become a different art form almost, a different style?
Well, to me, I always thought it was just boxing without gloves.
Yeah.
But I'm more thinking now it's more of a different sort of art form, really.
Yeah.
It's very, very different when you watch it. It's
interesting. Like I say, if you mention bare knuckle boxing, I've read lots of books, King of the Gypsies. That's immediately what springs to mind.
Yep.
But this is in a ring, it's medical people there, so it's safe, it's controlled. Sounds good. If you're going to go into Stu's site, look at the Be Bad page, you'll find more information. Now, I mentioned at the start of the show that this is a complete contrast to the topic we've just been talking about, I think. Your latest book is a collection of contemporary poetry.
Yep.
And I like this one, this description, because it says on the blurb in your book, life can be good, life can be bad, life can be happy, life can be sad, life can be love, life can be hate. The feelings flow if you open that gate. And it's described as life is one man's personal journey through life, told in a collection of contemporary poetry that will make you laugh and make you cry. Now, the first part of that sentence, the first paragraph, shall we say, I think neatly and very cleverly sums up most experiences of life. Now, is this book, this a collection of poetry you've wrote over the years, or did you sort of just start to do it?
It's a collection of poetry I've written over the years, and normally it's when big things happen in my life, I'll write something. That's very much the way if I'm upset or something, I cope with things, that I'll write things.
Right.
There's a lot of newer stuff as well, but every single one is completely 100% personal to myself.
Right.
It's something I thought long and hard about releasing, and I did think about having a pen name or something like that.
But it does expose you, doesn't it?
And then I thought, why the hell not?
Yeah.
It's something I love, so why not? And like it says pretty much at the front of all my books, I've written a book because I love books and I've always wanted to do it. I really hope people enjoy them, but if they don't, well,
Go buy another book.
I've written it anyway.
But I mean, I've yet to read them. I'm going to read them because I say Stu's brought them along. But the sub-tag line to the book is a catalyst of this book being brought on by personal tragedy and betrayal. If you haven't read the book, if I read that tagline, I would assume it's a dark book. Is it?
It's very much, it's very dark and very light in different places. What I was struggling to do was to try and run through and have maybe a bit of a dark, bit of a sad piece, and then a bit of a happy one. This one, it's going to come out at the beginning of December this year, and I'm just sort of putting it together now, and I'm putting it into 2 sections.
Okay.
There's going to be a sort of a happy and a sad, or a dark and a light. I'm not
idea.
quite sure sort of what yet, but everyone, it means every single word, and it means a hell of a lot to me.
Personal.
Yep.
Personal. I think that's a good idea of separating into... Because many people, I write books, I've read books, and I enjoy some poetry, but sometimes you read a poetry, you're not quite sure where the author's coming from. But I think if you've got it segmented out, so you know it's which emotions behind it, I think that's a good idea, because sometimes people, I think, need a gentle nudge towards poetry, and I think that softens the idea.
That's it. I mean, it's not your general kind of poetry that we would read walking through a field full of daffodils. some of it, they'll probably have you laughing. Some of it, they'll probably have people crying. Some of it, you'll think, what the hell is he talking about?
That's great, because I wouldn't read a book about daffodils, but I'd read this book about poetry.
Yeah.
Anyway, buy the book. I think that sounds fascinating. And it's the kind of book I think people should read if they want to get a dip a toe into poetry, because it's real poetry. Your fifth music track, it's Against Madness, you mentioned before, One Step. Even when I say it, I want to start going one step beyond. You've got to see it, haven't you? One Step Beyond by Madness.
This one, to me, really is not called One Step Beyond. It's called the Monster Song.
Yes.
Pretty much anywhere we go over the years, me and the kids will end up with some music on. But when I put this one on, the bit at the beginning, the kids shout it, the kids love it. They go mad in the car, I go mad in the car. And to me, it just summarises good happy times and good holidays with me three kids. And it'll always be the Monster Song to me.
That's it. Music can evoke so many memories.
Yeah.
If you listen to that, and I guarantee if you're not even foot tapping, you may even be dancing. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about what you do when you're not writing and kind of books you read and any favourite authors.
Radio Northumberland. Radio.
Northumberland's an hour for Longboard.
That was Madness, One Step Beyond. Again, the choice of my author today on Desert Island Discs, not Desert Island Discs. Freudian slip there. Kirsty, if you want to move over, I'm ready. Stu Armstrong, who's an author and of course a Doorman. Now, we've mentioned before about your poetry and reading. How do you relax when you're not writing or when you're not working as a doorman or doing a day job?
One of the big things was always by reading.
Right.
But I find now, since I've started writing, I struggle to actually read.
Busman's Holder.
Well, it's not so much that I'll start reading something that's particularly good, it'll give us an idea, and then I want to go and write. The majority of the time, best way to relax for me is spending time with my three boys.
Right.
We do all kinds of pretty much daft things. I'm sure some people have came across some of the rather bizarre YouTube videos we've put on, things like we pretend to be Johnny Cash singing The Ring of Fire and the three kids singing in the background.
I haven't seen that.
Oh, well, I'll just send you it.
Yeah. I mean, we've mentioned this. We mentioned a little bit about it, the fact that people will stop you in the street and say, I thought you were taller. She's almost a year to the day it's coming up. My daughter's wedding, Middleton Hall, evening. I was I had a couple of Chevys, slightly near, and somebody recognised me because she bought my book and come across. And has it happened to you yet?
Quite a few times, and every single time I am absolutely mortifiedly embarrassed, and I can't quite comprehend why somebody would, you Stu Armstrong, did you write that book? Or somebody will turn up where I work and ask for an autograph. The Big Bad Show a few weeks ago, I had quite a lot of people, and I'm just a normal bloke, the same as I always was, and I'm so embarrassed. But I'm so sort of humbled and sort of grateful in a way that people enjoy what I've done for the fact that they're actually that interested. But
yeah, because if you're a writer, and I'm the same, I wrote a book, I write a column a month, two columns for Paranormal magazine. You sit in an office and dig, and you've no idea, and it goes out there, and you think it's good enough, but when somebody comes and says, I enjoyed it,
it's huge.
It's a lift.
It's
fantastic.
Huge. Well, I mean, when the reviews started coming through on Amazon, I was absolutely blown away.
Once you got your mum and your friends passed.
That's
yeah,
it. That's it. Well, I had to give my mum a free one, so she wasn't in a review. But up until about a month ago, there were for all of my books, every single one was a 5-star review, which I was amazed at. But I've just received a 4-star one. Both with really good comments. So, but I'm still, every single one that I get, I'm absolutely blown away, and it means so much that people enjoy what I've enjoyed putting together.
I totally agree. I know the feeling. It's different to put in the words, but it's just quite satisfaction, shall we say. Now, when I was researching the series, I come across a TV series, American TV series. I've watched some episodes called Ropes by Vin Diesel, I think it is, isn't it?
That's right.
Have you seen it?
I have.
Is it accurate?
Well, I thought it would be one of these American dramas that would be totally different. I had heard in the past that Vin Diesel had been a doorman before he was into acting.
Was he?
He'd been a doorman for quite a few years. And then I found out afterwards that he'd actually written the whole series himself as well. I started to watch it one day on Netflix, and I was so engrossed in it, I spent the whole day watching it, and I watched the whole series in one day. completely. I think I only stopped to go to the loo and make a cuppa. It was really, really good. But I think it was very much, it was more like Dorman used to be, say, 15, 20 years ago. Not so much like it is now, but...
It's good to check it out. I mean, I've watched 2 or 3 of the series, in between got 10, not 10 to sort of dip in and out. We're coming towards the end of the show, and of course, soon you're going to have to play, we're going to play out your final tracks, you've got to choose your favourite dessert, but what's next for you? What's upcoming now? Apart from the books you've got coming out, I've already mentioned.
Well, quite a big thing for me at the minute. I'm writing a book called From Shields to Sicily, the Paul Charters story. Paul Charters he's a really good friend of mine, but he was very, very big in the boxing world in the late 80s and early 90s. At one point, he held 2 Northern Area title belts at the same time in 2 different weights. One is lightweight and one is light welterweight. He went on to fight in 2 final British Eliminators, and then very, very short notice, he ended up getting shipped off to Sicily. I think it was 1993. To fight Antonio Renzo for the European Championship. The fight's on YouTube. If anybody's a boxing fan, you've got to watch it. It's a fantastic fight. In Palermo, terrible conditions. It was a bit of a war between the 2 fighters. They were both up, they were both down, but there was people throwing cigarette ends on Paul and things like that. But he took this match all the way, and there was pretty much no doubt that he was going to win this. A couple of his friends had went with him, and I've spoken to one of them about this book, and one of them told us, you're going to have to get him out of the country. They'll kill him. And it came to the last round, and he got a knockdown, and he was just so exhausted. And you can see it, and you can see the hurt and the pain on his face. He just couldn't get back up. And when you actually look at the point all the way through, he was winning up until that point. But he's got such a fascinating story. He didn't start boxing until he was late, when he was 19. He comes from he had a pretty difficult childhood and a pretty sort of difficult upbringing, and then all of a sudden he was sort of thrown at the forefront with this boxing. But you've never met such an interesting person, and he's being totally honest with it.
Right, that's good.
He had a lot of bad times when he stopped boxing, and he's being completely honest about that as well. But he's got to be probably one of the most respected North East boxers as I've ever been, but an absolutely lovely bloke. For instance, my oldest son, don't want him to be on Facebook, but he is, he's got Paul listed as his grandfather. I live in the same street as Paul. I get wrong now if I knock on the door off Paul's wife for knocking. I've just meant to walk in. They're lovely people, but he's such a big part of boxing history, not just in the North East, but he's just the fellow up the street as well. And I've really enjoyed writing this book with Paul, because there's so much about him that I didn't know. It's fascinating.
You think you know somebody, and then...
But I'm being besieged by people turning up at my door. Oh, can I just tell you about this with Paul, that with Paul?
Could be 2 books there.
I think there could be thousands of books, to be honest.
So when's that coming out?
I'm hoping it's going to come out in December. But I think with it being such a big subject, he's so well known in the boxing world, especially in the North East, and a good friend, I'm terrified that I don't encapsulate it properly. And it's taken quite a long time, because the way we're doing it, me and Paul are sitting talking, and I'm taking notes and writing from there. But once we get talking, you can't shut up. But it is going to be a fascinating book.
I look forward to that. Keep an eye out and keep up to date. And we can put it on our Radio Northumberland's Facebook page and our Twitter feed. So we'll be tweeting links to Stu's page. And of course, you can go on Amazon and just do a search for Stu Armstrong and Company's books. Now, coming towards the end of the show, as I mentioned, we're going to listen to your final track soon, Step on Happy Mondays. But name of the show is Desert Island Discs, and it's based on a show I love on the BBC, Desert Island Discs. But unlike those nasty people at the BBC, I'm not going to cast you away in a desert island. Just a few luxuries and some songs. All I'm going to do is I'm going to cast you away on a desert island, and that you've got to choose one dessert that you're going to eat for the rest of your life.
Well, I thought picking the songs was quite difficult, getting it down to 6. But picking a dessert, it's massively difficult. And I was stuck between 2 up until about an hour before I got here today. But there's got to be me one all-time favourite. But it's pretty unique in the fact that it's got to be prepared by one person, or it's not the same. And it's got to be homemade rice pudding, cooked nice and slowly in the oven, made by my own mother. and tinned rice pudding.
Not the
It's
same.
not all that. Other people's rice pudding's quite nice, but it's got to be the best.
I would quite agree, because that's one of my favourite, and I was surprised nobody's ever come up with that yet. But the big question, of course, before we go to the final song is, do you like the skin?
That has got to be the best part.
Yeah.
It's got to be.
Totally agree. Your last music track, Step On Happy Mondays. Why did you choose this?
It came out round about the time that I was leaving school, and I was doing a part-time job, shelf stacking in a supermarket. And I just sort of loved it. It was quite different to a lot of other stuff at the time. And it's something that it's just always stuck with us. I've always loved that song.
It's always been there.
The odd time if I put some tracks on a CD or something to put in the car, it's always on there.
It creeps in.
It always does.
Right. Well, we're going to play with that. Stu Armstrong, author. Those were your Desert Island Discs. Thank you for being on the show. It's been fascinating.
Thank you very much. I've really enjoyed it.